Okay, this clip is about the Speaker of the House and him doing this video shouldn't have done. But first clip, I'm not sure what this is about. Leave your comments below about she against this guy or for him?
Privilege related to the Speaker's public participation at an Ontario Liberal Party convention.
Acting Speaker.
Just a reminder that care must be taken. Please don't have your earpieces near the microphone. All comments will go through the chair. The clerk and I will maintain a consolidated speaking list. We have with us today Eric Janse, acting clerk of the House of Commons. Just so we know, this committee has the power to remove acting from his title, and just to be a little bit biased and share it, I hope we do. Michelle Bedard, interim law clerk of the Parliamentary Council, Office of the Law Clerk in Parliamentary Council, and Jeffrey LeBlanc, acting deputy clerk, procedure. I understand one person's bringing comments, and you will have up to 10 minutes for those comments. The time starts now. Welcome to Clerk.
I don't have all the facts, though. What do you think? Leave your comments below. And here's MP Cooper digging into this. Before we have MP Fergus, he's coming up later.
Through the chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you to the witnesses. I'll direct my questions to Mr. Janse. Mr. Janse, are you aware of any precedent, whether it be in Ottawa, the provinces, or across the Commonwealth, where a speaker has engaged in a public display of partisanship of the kind that we saw on the part of Mr. Fergus?
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you for the question, Mr. Cooper. Again, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, there have been certain cases in both some of the Canadian legislatures in which there were questions raised about the activities of speakers outside of the House. For the most part, these were addressed via a substantive motion and not via question of privilege studied by a committee. So there are examples, but perhaps not identical to the
Are you able to cite any examples?
Well, again, there was the case in Prince Edward Island, where there were questions about the impartiality of the Speaker, although I think that might have been more related to the Speaker's actions in the chamber, not necessarily outside. I don't know if my colleagues can help me out in terms of some of the others.
We did sort of canvass our provincial colleagues. There was a case in Nova Scotia where, example, the Speaker appeared in an ad for their political party, along with other members of their caucus, and that may have given rise to some questions. So there have occasionally been sorts of comments like that about what speakers do, whether attending party events or appearing in party materials.
Thank you. Did Mr. Fergus consult you, Mr. Janse, about the appropriateness of recording a video tribute to his Liberal friend John Fraser?
Right. Maybe just in terms of a bit of context, obviously myself and the entire House administration are available to provide advice and support to not only the Speaker but to all members. The Speaker also, of course, has his own staff that he can rely upon for advice. We, the House administration, myself, provide mainly advice on procedural and administrative matters. The Speaker's office would perhaps be better positioned to provide advice to the Speaker on more partisan or party matters. But to answer directly your question, Mr. Cooper, no, I was not consulted.
And when did you first become aware of Mr. Fergus's tribute video?
I think it was the Saturday via a tweet from, actually, I believe it was you, Mr. Scheer, and that led then to some exchanges between myself and the Speaker's office.
And had Mr. Fergus sought your advice, what advice would you have provided him?
Thank you again through you, Madam Chair. Mr. Cooper, I think my advice would have been to probably not proceed in this manner, or at a minimum to perhaps canvass the parties and to explain that the Speaker's been invited to this event and that he's maybe wondering what he should do, and perhaps seek the advice from the parties as to whether or not he should proceed.
And can you elaborate on why you likely would have advised him not to proceed?
I think, again, in our parliamentary tradition, again, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, there's a bit of a tightrope that the Speaker has to walk in terms of still being a card-carrying member of a party and still the importance of being neutral and non-partisan in terms of presiding over the House and the Board of Internal Economy and the like, and that perhaps this was going a bit too far into the partisan sphere.
He would have crossed a line. Is that fair?
I mean, ultimately, I think that's for this committee to determine. But my advice would have been to not see the Speaker participate in this video.
That the table offer chair occupants, including the Speaker, briefings or advice about aspects of their roles and responsibilities upon their election?
It's actually a very good question. It's one of the things we've been reflecting upon over the last few days in terms of lessons learned. We, of course, do, whenever a new Speaker is elected, provide both written briefing material as well as oral briefings to the Speaker and to the Speaker's staff. It's perhaps something we should add a larger section on in that briefing material on the role of impartiality.
Written and oral materials are provided and briefings to the Speaker, to his staff, and I presume that those briefings would include informing the Speaker about his or her duty to be nonpartisan.
Again, I think lessons learned, that's probably something we could focus more on going forward. Again, it's easy to say looking back. I don't think there's been a whole lot of issues in the past. But generally speaking, yes, there is obviously a transition that has to be made when one becomes Speaker.
And so have there been any such briefings, yes or no?
There were certainly briefings when Speaker Fergus became Speaker.
And how many would he have received? And again, specific to being nonpartisan,
right.
et cetera.
Yeah, no, there wouldn't have been a specific briefing on just that subject. It would have been...
But it would have included that subject, right?
I'm sure we would have touched on it, but again, probably not in as much detail as we will be doing going forward.
With regards to Mr. Fergus's trip to Washington, D.C. last week, was that trip booked through the International Inter-Parliamentary Affairs Unit?
It was.
It was. And when was it booked?
It's been in the works for some time, but I don't know exactly when.
Is some time a few weeks since he was elected Speaker? Before
Yes.
he was elected Speaker?
Yeah.
Before he was elected
No,
Speaker?
not before. No. Because it was a Speaker-led trip, so it would have been after he became Speaker.
Excellent. Thank you. I will just ask